Okay, so okay, so EEG, electroencephalogram. So it is a recording of electrical activities of the cerebral cortex. Okay, so today we are discussing about EEG, sleep, and epilepsy, and that will start with EEG. So it is just recording of the electrical activities. Okay, how we have recorded our activities, electrical activities of the cardiac muscles. We have seen that ECG, electrocardiogram. So this is electroencephalogram. So it is a recording of the electrical activity of the cerebral cortex. Okay. So it is represented as waves, and the machine is called as electrocardiograph. And here you can see it is, these are the brain waves, alpha, beta, theta, and delta, not always present. This theta is not, it is mainly present in infants. We'll see the details of each waves. So this brain waves, they indicate the electrical activity in the cerebral cortex. Okay, so these recordings of the waves are, it is called as EEG or an electroencephalogram. Okay, and this is helpful. These brain waves, or study of the brain waves, are helpful to detect or to find out the abnormal activities, or to diagnose the abnormal activities. Means it is disorders like epilepsy, or in tumors, trauma, or any type of degenerative disorders, and finally to confirm the brain death. Okay, the EEGs we detect, we record to confirm the brain death finally. And it is helpful in sleep studies as well, because the waves will be different in different situations of the activities of the brain, at rest, at sleeping, or hyperactivity of the brain. It will show different waves. Okay, and first, alpha waves. There are 4 types of waves: alpha, beta, theta, and delta. And that alpha waves occur during awake. It is seen during awake. The person is awake, or the person is resting with a closed eye. That means he is not sleeping, but he is just taking a rest, but he is with a closed eye, but the person is awake. In that situation, like awakeness, during wakefulness, you can see the alpha waves. Okay, and it disappears when the person gets the sleep, or it is disappears entirely during the sleep. And then comes beta waves. This beta waves appears during periods of sensory input. Like anything, any sensory input. Suppose the same thing, you are listening to a talk, or you are listening to a music, or you are seeing something, you are analyzing a visual field of what you are seeing, or you are writing anything, or somebody touches you. Any sensory inputs to the brain. Okay, any sensory or any ascending tract inputs to the brain. And during the mental activities, you are thinking something, you're forming some thoughts. Okay, or past, you're collecting some past memories, anything such mental activities and sensory inputs, they produce during that period. If we take the electroencephalogram, you can get a beta wave. And theta wave appears in children, and if it is seen in adults, that indicates abnormal status of the brain activities, that it, in case of emotional stress, or in case of many disorders of the brain. It is seen in children, mostly in infants. And uh, the delta waves, it occurs during sleep. Okay, it is normal in awake infants. Awake infants, it is normal. And if it is produced by an awake adult, it indicates a brain damage. And nowadays the attendance is only 87 maximum. Okay, what is the problem? Is there any connectivity problem, or we'll have to find out those 13? And beginning itself, some 3 students are missing. We have to find it out. Okay, so this delta waves are seen in sleep, or it can be recorded when this person is undergoing sleep. And if it is normal, it is present in awake infant, it is normal, but in an awake adult, it indicates a brain damage. So these are the 4 waves: alpha, beta, theta, and delta. Okay, So alpha, so these brain waves are helpful in sleep studies. They help in finding out the disorders in the brain like epilepsy, tumors, trauma, or degenerative disease, and also to confirm the brain death. And alpha occur seen in during a wakefulness and disappears during sleep. Beta, it is seen in the activities of the brain. Either it is a mental activity or a sensory input. And theta is seen in children. In adult, it is an abnormal way. Delta is seen in awake during the sleep in adults. In awake, if it is seen in infants, it is normal. In adult, it indicates a brain damage. And now we'll see sleep and wakefulness. So we sleep and awake in a 24-hour cycle, or which is called as circadian rhythm. Okay. And a person who is awake, wakefulness means he is ready to respond to a stimulus. Okay. He is ready to respond means he responds to a stimulus consciously. Conscious respond to a stimulus. That is called as the person is awake. Okay. And the cerebral activity, cortex activity is active during wakefulness, and fewer impulses arise during most stages of the sleep. Conscious few impulses arise during a few impulses are arise during most stages of the sleep. Okay. So in human, the sleep wake cycle is in 24 cycle. It is called as a circadian rhythm. In 24 cycle, we take some hours for taking a rest. Okay, to take some rest, mental and physical rest, called as a sleep. So we'll see what is a wakefulness. Okay, so awakening or wakefulness is done by you have seen this RAS, reticular activating system, group of neurons, networking neurons along the brainstem, medulla, pons, and midbrain. There are ascending and descending pathways for reticular activating system. So they get via like ascending pathways, they get information, sensory informations are conveyed to the reticular activating system, and they causes the awakening, arousal of the person. Okay, so the stimulation of the reticular activating system means the person is awakened. Okay, the person is awakened, ready to react. And the sensory stimuli, most of the sensory stimuli can activate RAS. So even if you are sleeping, if your reticular activating system is activated or stimulated, you can be awakened. Okay, so there's stimulus like a pain, touch, pressure, movement of the limbs, bright light, buzz of an alarm clock, all these can activate the RAS, reticular activating system. And see, even though most of the stimuli can activate, the smell sensation is, for the smell sensation, it is unable to uh, activate the reticular activating system. Okay. So once the reticular activating system is activated, the cerebral cortex is also activated and the arousal occurs. And then the state is wakefulness or consciousness. So see, it is like it receives most of the somatic sensory receptors from most of the structures of the body like eye, ears. It doesn't get any input from olfactory receptors. So that's why it is important of this one, smoke detectors. Okay, so most of this house uh, burning, like house fire type of death, like they are succumbent with smoke, but they are not aware. Without bacon, they smell the smoke, but it is not activating the reticular activating system. Once they feel like the suffocation, they get up. Once it depresses the respiratory system, they get up. Okay, so can be lead to death. So it is very important to keep the smoke detectors like alarms in case if the person is deaf. You can keep some vibrating sensors or flashing lights, anything. So some alarms which can activate your reticular activating system in the form, usually in the form, so alarm systems are there, like smoke detecting alarm systems are there most of the houses nowadays. So that the importance is that the reticular activating system has no input from the smell sensation, and it is very difficult to awake a person by giving a smell sensation. And we'll see the sleep. Sleep is a state of altered consciousness or partial consciousness. We cannot say it is unconsciousness. Okay, it is not an unconsciousness. You can just you can make the individual awakened or aroused, okay, by giving some sensation. So it is a state of altered consciousness or partial unconsciousness from which an individual can be aroused, and it is also called as a natural period state of the rest for mind and body with closed eyes. And there are two components of the sleep, like rapid eye movement or REM sleep, and non-rapid eye movement or NREM sleep. This rapid eye movement sleep, it is associated with conjugate movement of the eyeballs, okay, to sideways, conjugate movement of the eyeballs, frequent movement of the eyeballs, and 20 to 30% of the sleeping period is REM sleep. And it has a role in consolidation of the memory. Means consolidation means your short-term memory is converted into long-term memory. So that consolidation of the memory is done during this REM sleep. So this period of sleep is very important in developing the memory. And the other one is not, this is uh, NREM sleep. First NREM sleep occurs and it is followed by REM sleep. Okay. So non-rapid eye movement is sleep. In this, no eye movements are there, and in this, no dreams are there. And REM sleep, even though eye movements are there, it is a deep sleep. Okay, so you can see rapid eye movements, but that period is a deep sleep period. So here in this non-rapid eye movement period, you cannot see any dreams. No dreams are there in this period, and this is 70 to 80% of the total sleeping period is in NREM sleep. And this is not like you go first to an REM sleep and then the rest is REM sleep. It is not like that. It is alternative periods. Okay, alternative periods of NREM and REM. NREM followed by REM. Then after few minutes, like 10 to 20 minutes, REM stops and NREM, next period of NREM. Okay, and then after NREM, if you are maximum to 90 minutes to 1 hour NREM, and then next is REM. Okay, so it is alternate throughout the night. So during a typical 7 to 8 hours sleep, there are 3 to 5 episodes of rapid eye movement sleep. So like first episode, which is followed by the non-rapid eye movement sleep. It lasts about 10 to 20 minutes. You will have a REM sleep. First, an REM sleep starts, then an REM R 20 to 10 to 20, then another interval of section of NREM, then again it is followed by REM. So in the final REM session is about 50 minutes or close to 1 hour. Okay, is about 50 minutes. So every 90 minutes interval there is a session of REM sleep. In adult, the REM sleep totals 90 to 20 minutes during a typical sleep cycle. Maximum 90 to 120. 2 hours you get a REM sleep, a deep sleep. Okay. And NREM sleep, it is gradually, it has a gradually emerging stages. Okay, in stage 1, it is a transition stage between wakefulness and sleep that normally lasts for 1 to 7 minutes. It is transition stage, and the person will be relaxing with eyes closed and fleeting thoughts, etc. And if you awake this person, if you call this person, or if the person is awakened, that person might say you that I have been sleeping, I was not sleeping, I've been slept, like that. Okay, so because he is consciousness is there. It's a transition stage, is going to sleep. And next stage is level is a light sleep. It is the first stage of the true sleep. In this, a little difficult to awake this person. So in this, fragments of dreams may be experienced, and the eyes may slowly roll from side to side. It's not like you're going to sleep. And then it's a period of moderately deep sleep. Okay, moderately deep sleep. Still, you can be awakened. Body temperature and blood pressure decreases. It's difficult to awaken the person. And stage occurs this about 20 minutes after falling asleep. Then the stage for the NREM sleep. Okay, and then the deepest level of sleep, although brain metabolism decreases, then reflexes are intact. Okay, most of the brain metabolism decreases and body temperature drops, but reflexes are intact. Reflexes will be there, and muscle tone decreases slightly. And then if like somnambulism, it's a sleepwalking, we'll discuss later. It occurs during this period of the sleeping stage. It is called a slow wave stage. Okay, slow wave sleep. You can, if you take the brain waves, you can see slow wave sleeping period. And these are the characteristics, like these are the characteristics. And a rapid eye movement is seen in REM, and NREM it is absent. Dreams are present in REM. NREM it is absent. Muscle twitching present in REM, absent in NREM. Heart rate is fluctuating in REM but stable in NREM. Blood pressure, respiration, body temperature, all are fluctuating but in REM, but NREM all are stable. A neurotransmitter for REM it is noradrenaline, and NREM it is serotonin. And you have sleep mechanisms. Like sleep mechanism, there are some certain sleep centers, raphe nucleus, etc., sleep centers in the brain. In the stimulation of such sleep centers causes you to fall asleep. And sometimes like inhibition of RAS. See, activation of RAS, reticular activating system, is the stage of awakening, okay, or arousal. So if you inhibit that, it also indicates a stage of sleep. Okay, so either stimulation of the sleep centers in the brain or inhibition of the reticular activating system can lead to a stage of sleep. And there are many, you can say, sleep disorders we'll discuss. Insomnia. Insomnia means inability to sleep. It is not like you one day if you cannot sleep you say it is insomnia. It is like a minimum of 3 days in a week. In a week, minimum 3 days you are unable to sleep throughout the day, like day or night, whatever. You are unable to sleep, and that continues for a minimum of 3 months. Okay, a minimum of 3 months per week, 3 days at least, minimum of 3 days. If you are not able to sleep, in such condition we call them as insomnia condition. It can be due to some systemic illness like diabetes mellitus, or any other kind of illness, body illness, or any psychiatric problems or stress or drug addictions, etc., can lead to this insomnia. And complications like it can increase the stress level again and can lead to high BP and risk of heart diseases, and psychological effect can see in like anxiety, depression, etc. And overweight, the stress always leads to release of stress hormones causing overweight of or obesity of the body. Okay, and poor immune system, low sleep, less sleep, or insufficient sleep always lead to decline in the immune system, immune function. So these are the complications of insomnia. Okay. And hypersomnia, the opposite, like overwhelming sleep, excessive sleep during daytime. And you cannot cure it with oversleeping in the night, or less sleeping. Obviously it will increase, it will worsen the situation, but you cannot cure this with oversleeping in the night. Okay, it is like idiopathic situation. Like idiopathic means causes are mostly unknown causes. So it's a neurological disorder that causes excessive sleepiness in the daytime. So possible causes are like brain tumors, encephalitis, chronic bronchitis, and lesion in the floor of the third ventricle. Sitting in the class and sleeping is not under this hypersomnia. Okay. And narcolepsy and cataplexy. The narcolepsy means sudden outburst of sleep episodes. Okay, sudden outburst of sleep episodes anytime, irrespective of day or night. Anytime it can occur, it can onset. And cataplexy means outburst of emotions, any type of emotions, like mostly rage and anger. Okay, emotions. So here you can see the sleep pattern. Okay, sleep pattern for a person, a normal healthy person, and sleep pattern for a narcolepsy person. Anytime the sleep episode can attack. Okay, sometimes while sitting and talking with the friends in a group, the person fall asleep. Okay, so that is a difficult, dangerous situation because it can lead to any what do you call um, emergency situations or casualty situations. Okay, the sudden attack of sleep. And same like cataplexy, sudden outburst of emotions. And sleep apnea, that is called as arrest of breathing during sleep, which causes you to awaken. Okay, which causes you an arousal. So it can be caused by obesity, myxedema, arrest of diaphragmatic movements, and airway obstruction. And mostly it is airway obstruction. You can see this the air through the mouth. When you keep open your mouth, air through the mouth and nose enters. See, this causes the pulling of the tongue downwards, okay, which causes the air block of the airway, and complete obstruction of the airway, which causes lack of entry of oxygen into the lungs, causes sleep apnea, arrest of breathing, and the person gets awakened. Okay, and the it leads to sleeplessness, and finally leads to mood swings or psychiatric problems, diabetes, systemic illness, leads to systemic illness, high bp, then concentration problems, heart failure, etc. The risk of untreated sleep apnea. Okay, so you have to find out what is the underlying cause, and then you have to treat it. And this is at night walking, sorry, sleepwalking, not night walking, sleepwalking, somnambulism, or somnambulist is the person who walks in sleep. It is a combination of sleep and wakefulness. It is common in children, okay, without a complete development of the cerebral cortex. They walk with eyes open but cannot recollect the incident when awakened. It occurs during slow wave sleep. Okay, during the slow wave sleep or NREM sleep, non-rapid eye movement sleep. And this nocturnal enuresis or bedwetting, it is common in kids like below 5 years. It is common because their neuronal controls are not developed, they cannot hold it, or they are not aware of the sensation to say. They don't get enough time to sense it and say, or get up from the bed and go for peeing. Okay, so it is common in kids below 5 years old, bedwetting. It is also called as nocturnal enuresis. In adults, it can be due to abnormal nocturnal plasma vasopressin. This, you see, the vasopressin is a hormone, antidiuretic hormone, which causes excess urine output. Okay, water through urine, excess output of water through urine. So this can be nocturnal plasma vasopressin release, abnormal in adults. I'm saying about abnormal cases of nocturnal enuresis, and not in kids. And then like overactive bladder. Okay, OAB, overactive bladder. So overactive bladder means hyperacting more. You can hold when it is 400 ml only, you will feel that when you have studied micturition, you might have studied that 400 ml you can hold it. After that you feel the sensation of urination. But in overactive bladder, it causes contraction, over contraction of the bladder, and causes frequent urination. But in this is not only in the night, during daytime also you can experience the symptoms, including urgency or in urination or micturition. Frequency is increased, and incontinence, difficult to hold the urine, okay, you by your will. And your therapy resistant, mostly it is resistant to any type of therapy. And another is improper sleep arousal, because whenever you feel like micturating, or you feel like avoiding of the urine, you get up from the sleep. Even if it is a deep sleep also, you get up from the sleep, and the bladder fills and you get the urge of urination, you get up and go to the appropriate place and do urinating. But in case of this improper sleep arousal, you fail to awake in response to bladder sensation. And these are the conditions: sleep, deep and fragmented sleep, and excessive daytime sleepiness. So in these cases you fail to awake in response to bladder sensation. So in these cases, the adults also may experience this bedwetting or nocturnal enuresis. Okay. And these are in kids. Nightmare and night terrors are can occur in kids. Like both are similar. Like it occurs in sleep during REM and during between a night terror, like sleep between sleep cycles. Uh, and in nightmare, no crying or moving. Night terror, crying, increased respiration, and in nightmare, the kid needs. These are in the kids. Kids need comforting and can remember the dream, but in night terror it cannot they are like fragments of some dreams that the kid shows some movements. Okay, the some movements or some they may cry or something, some expressions will be there. Okay, it can be due to mostly due to digestive disorders or improper food intake or sleep deprivedness or stress and fever also causes this nightmares. Okay, talking in the night, and disrupted routines or schedules and sleep related breathing issues. So all any of these conditions can lead to nightmares and night terrors, mostly occur in kids. And other types of sleep disorders are movement disorders like sleep slat or hypnagogia. Like immediately if you fall asleep, you have a feeling that you are falling into some deep um ditch or something, like deep hole, and you suddenly you with the jerky movement of the legs or hands you wake up. You just no, not complete wake up, awakening, arousal, just have a conscious period. Okay, so that occurs immediately after falling asleep, and it's a physiological form of clonus, jerking movement of the muscle. Okay, jerking movement of clonus we have studied already, movement of the muscle. It is most of the like 100% of the people, they might have experienced this state, falling into a deep hole or from a high place, something like that, and which makes you awakened. Okay, with the jerky movement you can just feel that jerky movement, hands or legs, jerky movement of the hands or legs. And this is bruxism, that teeth grinding. Mostly in kids it is seen, in adults also it is seen. It can be because of the improper alignment of the teeth set that leads to this. If the proper teeth set is improperly aligned, you can see that, or any stress or sleep, any other associated with any other sleep disorders also this bruxism is seen, or grinding of the teeth. Okay, and epilepsy, I don't think we get time in 7 minutes. Okay, you see. So it is a neurological condition that caused by electrical disturbances in the overactiveness of the hyperactivity of the brain. Okay, which signals like high electrical impulses, unwanted impulses from the brain. So it results in seizures or unusual behavior, movements or experience, and sometimes lack of awareness or loss of consciousness, everything. And there are two types: generalized seizure and focal seizures. Okay, generalized mean the hyperactivity occurs all over the cerebral cortex, throughout the large area of the cerebral cortex. Focal means any particular small area, a part of the cerebral cortex. Okay, so generalized epilepsy, the excessive discharge of impulses from all parts of the brain. It can be three types: grand mal, petit mal, and psychomotor epilepsy. Okay, so we'll see grand mal. Grand mal means sudden loss of consciousness followed by convulsions. Okay, there are tonic and clonic convulsions, like twitching of the face, contraction of the muscles, twitching of the muscles, hands and limbs, and then leads to clonus, like what do you call, violent movement of the limbs. Chronic means violent movement of the limbs. And before starting this, before the onset of the grand mal, there will be a warning sensation. It is called as like epileptic aura in the form of hallucinations, like some hallucination of the smell or sight, vision, anything, any type of any form of hallucination. They get an aura of the attack of this grand mal. Okay, and petit mal, there won't be any warning sensation. It lasts for only few seconds, maximum 3 to 30 seconds, and there won't be any warning sensations or epileptic aura. In this convulsions, that violent convulsions or jerky movements won't be there, but facial twitchings will be there. Okay, facial twitchings will be there. You can see here the twitching of the face, like that. This is like aura, or some ringing or hissing noises or visual aura they will see. But in this case, no convulsions, no epileptic aura, only twitching of the face and lasts for few seconds. And this is due to some accidents or some injury to the brain. And psychomotor epilepsy means emotional outburst like rage or anxiety. It is due to some abnormalities in the limbic system or hypothalamus, and also called as temporal lobe epilepsy. In this, what happens is the person may, with awareness or without awareness, the activities may be with awareness or without awareness, like sudden outburst of uncontrolled rage or anxiety or anger. It will be uncontrolled. The person may try to harm himself or the other person. And localized or focal epilepsy, it is occurs because of excessive discharge of impulses from one part of the brain. Okay, in this, only a localized area, a particular area of the cerebral cortex or the deeper parts of cerebellum are affected, which are affected by tumor, abscess, or vascular defects are involved. Okay, and the abnormality starts from a particular area and spreads to adjacent areas. And contractions also. The contractions also starts from usually from the mouth region and spreads downwards towards the legs. The convulsions. Okay, it starts from the mouth and then spreads downwards down towards the legs. So these are the epilepsy classifications: generalized and localized. Generalized, grand mal, petit mal, and psychomotor epilepsy. Grand mal means with the epileptic aura, warning, sudden loss of consciousness, and convulsions, tonic and clonic, that is like aggressive, okay, hyperactivity. And then petit mal without any aura, last 3 to 30 seconds only, and no convulsions, but twitching of the face happens. Psychomotor means like uncontrolled rage or anxiety in which the person can harm himself or herself or with the other person, maybe with awareness, but even with awareness also the person is unable to control it. Okay, and sometimes unaware, without like consciousness, or in the sense like if person is not know what he is or she is doing. And localized means it happens due to like see diseases like uh, uh, tumor or abscess or vascular defects or accidents. Any area, a particular area, okay, a small area is involved in producing the abnormal electrical discharges. Okay, it is excessive discharge. That excessive discharge is done in any particular area. Okay, so this is about epilepsy. So we've today we done with waves in ECG, sleep, and epilepsy. Okay, so just you can revise it after the session. And tomorrow we'll deal about learning and memory, how the memory is consolidated, or what is behind the physiology behind the memory and behind learning. Okay, thank you. Shall I end the meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.